First of all, about the term client states. I just went to Farsi texts to find what is the Persian translation of the client state. They call it Dawlat Muttaqi. Muttaqi. Muttaqi means dependent, one weaker state dependent on another stronger state in the areas of economics, politics, and military. If I can, I should just give some background information on both Syria and Afghanistan, because some background, the history and the people of those countries, the religion, is relevant to understand. So what I did, I will just divide my presentation into two small segments. First, I will try to have some selected similarities and differences between Syria and Afghanistan. Then I will go to the situation in Afghanistan and focus on Afghanistan. The first similarity between Syria and Afghanistan is that both of them, Syria here and Afghanistan here, they were located on the confluence of civilizations, what later was in the 19th century called the Silk Road, beginning from China, coming through Tajikistan and Afghanistan, and from Afghanistan it's Uzbekistan, Iran, from Iran to Iraq, Iraq to Syria. So both of these countries were located on the Silk Road, and at the same time there was another road too, from the subcontinent of India, which Afghanistan was located on that confluence of the Silk Road and the Spice Road. And both of them probably, again, Syria was one of those countries too. The cities in Afghanistan, for example, Bamiyan, Balkh, Kabul, Herat, and Kandahar, they were all Silk Road cities, in addition to what was in Samarkand and Bukhara and other parts of the Central Asia. In Syria, the city of Damascus, Palmyra, Homs, Homa, Aleppo, these were Halab, which is the Arabic name. They were all located on the crossroads of this Silk Road and the Spice Road. So that was one of the similarities. So the people in both of these countries later, so modern day Syria and modern day Afghanistan, were very mixed at the time. Some of these traders who came, they just stayed, they did not go back. The conquerors who came to those countries, they stayed, and then they left their DNAs there. So that's what we can see both in Syria and Afghanistan. So that was one of the similarities. Another similarity was that in 539 BCE, the Persian king Cyrus invaded Babylon and then later captured Syria. In 520, Darius, another Persian emperor, conquered Afghanistan. In 332 BC, Alexander the Great captured Syria, conquered Syria. And in 330, 2 years later, the Persians, Alexander the Great conquered Iran, and then from Iran came to Afghanistan. And the Alexander army were and passed Hindu Kush, and some of them even crossed the Oxus River and went to the area which is called Soghdiana, in that part of on the other side of the Oxus River. In the case of Syria, from the Greeks to the Romans, from Romans to the Byzantine, and it was under the control of the Byzantine until 636 AD. And in 636 AD, this infant Muslim state rose from today's Saudi Arabia here, from Mecca. And then from Mecca, Prophet Muhammad went to Medina. In 622 AD, the Islamic State was established in Medina, 622 AD. Then Prophet Muhammad died in 632 AD. He died 632 AD, Prophet Muhammad. 4 years after his death in 636 AD, this Muslim infant state defeated the Byzantine Empire in the Battle of Yarmouk in Syria, and then captured Syria. That was 636 AD. In 637 AD, the same Muslim state which rose from today's Mecca, they defeated the Persian Empire of the Sasanian Persian Zoroastrian Empire in 637 AD. And then they captured Iraq. And then from Iraq, they marched to Iran, and then from Iran to Afghanistan. And we saw the Muslim armies in Afghanistan in 652 AD. They captured Herat, and then they went to Kabul. This is what the process of Islamization started in both of these countries, Syria and Afghanistan. Then another similarity is that in 1219, Afghanistan was conquered by Genghis Khan, the Mongols, the Mongol horde. In 1258, Hulegu sacked Baghdad, captured Baghdad, and in 1300, Aleppo in Damascus was taken by the Genghis Khan descendants. So that's the historical similarities between these two countries. Today, both of these countries, Syria and Afghanistan, are Muslim majority states. Both of them are Sunni majority countries. In Afghanistan, the population of Afghanistan, overwhelming majority of them, they are probably 99% are Muslims in Afghanistan. But in Syria, they have the Christians and others, Armenians. So Syria has the percentage of the Muslims not as high as in Afghanistan, at 99%, but still it's an overwhelming majority. But their Sunni branch, there are 4 Sunni schools. Afghanistan subscribed to the Hanafi Sunnis, and in Syria it is the Shafi'i Sunnis. So anyhow, there are these differences. Now I'm coming to the differences between these two countries. Syria is an Arab majority country speaking Arabic languages. It's one of the Semitic branches of the languages. In Afghanistan, the 2 major official languages are, one is Persian, another one is Pashto. Both are branches of the Indo-European languages. Another important difference is that Afghanistan is 4 times as big as Syria. And Afghanistan is one of the world's most rugged countries that you can find. It's almost 3/5 of the country is covered by the tallest mountains after Mount Everest. And it's a nightmare for the invading armies, whether Greeks, Persians, British, Mongols, Mughals of India, or Russians, the Soviet Union from 1979 to 1989, or now Americans are there. So it is a nightmare for any invading, occupying force, but it is an ideal place for the guerrilla warfare. Syria remained under the Ottoman control later, from 1516 all the way up to the end of World War I. In 1918, it came under the control of the French. From 1918, it was under the control of the French until 1943 when they got their independence. Afghanistan somehow lingered and had an independent status. Another difference is that Syria did not get involved what we are using, what the term that Kipling used, the Great Game, between the British Empire from the south and the Tsarist Russia from the north. So this was part of Afghanistan. In 1878, the British annexed this to the British India, became part of the British Empire. And as Tsarist Russia was expanding west and south, Tsarist Russia colonized up to Alaska, came south, colonized Kyrgyzstan, Kazakhstan, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan. And in the process, this part was Afghanistan. They call it Panjshir. It is part of the Afghan Turkmenistan. Tsarist Russia annexed that to the Tsarist Empire. When Lenin came after the revolution, he promised Afghans that they will return this territory, but he never did. Then the Tsarist Russia became the Soviet Russia. There is one thing that I said, the difference is that Afghanistan was deeply involved in this, what was called the Great Game. In that Great Game, which started in the 1930s, the first Anglo-Afghan war was from 1939. And you wrote the review of one of the books. The British Empire invaded Afghanistan to prevent the danger coming from the Tsarist Russia. And they came to Afghanistan with 16,000 troops. And this was the first major defeat in the history of the United Kingdom. Then the British came the second time in 1879. They invaded Afghanistan, and again, they did not succeed, left. Then the third time, there was third Anglo-Afghan war in 1921. And again, so Afghanistan just remained independent. In Afghanistan, a coup took place by a party by the name of People's Democratic Party of Afghanistan, which was launched in 1965. That group the pro-Soviet group, Afghan Communist Party, did the coup in Afghanistan in 1978 in the month of April, and they declared Afghanistan as sort of a member of the socialist bloc by Taraqi at that time. That was the beginning of the Soviet client state in Afghanistan. 1 year later, 1978 was the coup. In 1979, that group which did the coup were collapsing, falling, and the Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan to save that socialist regime in Afghanistan. Some are saying it was part of the Brezhnev doctrine. Some say that, well, the Soviet Union thought that they will go and replace one leader with another one and then return back. They invaded Afghanistan with only 12,000 troops at the beginning. It was not a massive force to come to Afghanistan. And so the Soviet Union bogged down and some sort of became a quagmire from 1979 to 1989. And finally, they left without achieving anything in Afghanistan after 10 years of occupation. Now Americans are in Afghanistan. This is the 16th anniversary of September the 11th. Americans are there, American troops. During the Obama administration, 100,000 American troops were in Afghanistan and had about 50 NATO forces. They did not succeed to defeat the Taliban. Now Americans have about 9,000 troops in Afghanistan. And the Trump administration wants to increase 4,000 more. So that will become about almost 13,000 American troops in Afghanistan and probably other 3,000 from the NATO forces. All combined could come to about 16,000. And the question is asked that, well, whether if they could not do the job with 150,000 foreign troops, what can they do about 13 or 14? Let me end this with a couplet from one of the court historian of the Amir or king of Bukhara, and he was born in 850 AD. And he had studied the Persians' campaign in Afghanistan and Central Asia. Then he studied the campaign of Alexander the Great. Then he studied the campaign of the Muslims in Afghanistan and Iran in the Central Asia. So his couplet is, I'll just recite it in Persian. Har ki namokht az guzashti rozgar, niz namozad ze hech amozgar. The meaning of that is that he who did not learn from the experiences of the history or experiences of the past will never learn from a good teacher. Thank you very much.